The T app just proves how women are sharing the same men. You know it, dude. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. All these girls are sharing the same dudes, bro. They're literally sharing the same dudes. So, all right. Let's go. Actually, matter of fact, let's get into this T app real quick. So I go here. Now imagine if there was an app called A Cold Beer where men anonymously shared personal info and warnings about women. It wouldn't last for 24 hours and every user on it would be deemed a sexual deviant and pervert. This is yet another example of how we live in a gynocentric social order. So T is officially the #1 app on the App Store. T is a women-only app where users anonymously share info and warnings about men to spot red flags and get feedback. And this comes from Academics TV. And it's the #1 thing that's downloaded. Bro, guys, it's crazy to me because there's another app that's very similar to this. It's called on Facebook, Are We Dating the Same Guy or whatever, right? And this app literally just proves hypergamy is real, right? So I've said this before, but we got a lot of you new guys here that aren't familiar with how the sexual marketplace works and how women work in general, right? And, all right. So feminism started to become extremely popular in the 1960s, right? Where women had the ability to pick their partners, start to enter the workforce, have their freedom, right? And do whatever they wanted to do, right? And I think it's very important for people to understand that the reason why feminism became so popular was because it gave women the ability to not have to get with and marry average men. They could go ahead, go to school, make their own money, have their own careers, and then be able to hold themselves out until they get their dream guy. Because unfortunately, right, before the sexual revolution of the 1960s, women would just get married because they got married. It was the thing to do. If you didn't get married and you were 25, you were looked at as a weirdo. So what would happen is women would shack up and get with men that were more average. And this was totally socially acceptable and expected. But since women were able to go ahead and go to school, get education, make their own money, etc., well, anytime women increase their socioeconomic status, what ends up happening with that, guys, is women start to go ahead and increase their wants. Since women are hypergamous, it's very difficult for them to meet a man where they're at. Very difficult. And if they do meet that man where they're at, what ends up happening a lot of the times is they'll either grow resentment for that guy or that guy needs to improve. If he doesn't improve, the woman's going to have resentment for him. Because no female wants to be with a guy that they feel that they are doing better than. That women don't want to feel like they're lapping their boyfriend or being more productive than their boyfriend. They're simply not built for it. So since we've had this sexual revolution and women are able to pick their own partners and do what they want to do, it allows them to be more selective. Since it allows them to be more selective, they're looking for a small minority of the men to go ahead and shack up with. There's only one problem with this. As women's standards increase and they want higher level men, what ends up happening with that is there's not enough of these guys to fucking go around. Simple math, supply and demand. Women are graduating at a higher rate than men in college, and women are starting to earn more money in many fields than men. So what ends up happening is most male candidates simply don't make the cut for most women. So what ends up happening is you end up with girls having this carousel lifestyle. And this carousel lifestyle, also known as the hot girl phase or the hot girl summer or the phase, whatever term you want to use for it, it's basically a period of time in a woman's life where she practices promiscuous behavior, experiments, explores, travels, gets all the whoreness out of her system, right? But this is very destructive. And the reason why it's destructive is because women aren't like us. So the more partners a woman has sex with, the higher the likelihood that she's not going to be able to stay in a good and sustained relationship. Now, there was a study done by the Family Institute, and they found that women that had 5 or less sexual partners were significantly more likely to be able to stay in happy long-term marriages. And then women that were virgins lasted the longest pretty much. Well, why is that? Well, it's simple. Though it's not rocket science, but it's offensive. And the reason why is because since women have this mindset that the grass is greener on the other side, right, and they feel like they can do better, unfortunately, it's sometimes better for them to not know that they could do better. I'm going to say that again. Women have a naturally grass is greener on the other side mindset. And since they have a grass is greener on the other side mindset, what that basically means is if they feel like they can do better, they will attempt to do better. But if they don't know they can do better, it's better for them. So in other words, they never taste the candy, right, and get addicted. They never try that and get addicted. And that is what feminism basically is. It's an addictive that it's fun for now, but then it ends up you up later on. Basically, thanks to the deregulated sexual marketplace, feminism, and women's rising standards, a majority of men no longer qualify for a majority of women. And most guys end up being damn near incels. Or they struggle to get a girlfriend, or they get a girl when she's past her peak, or they're in a miserable relationship. It's an L for everybody. Now, what this T app does, right, is it proves what I've been telling you guys forever. A minority of the men are having sex with the majority of the women. Because if it weren't that way, women wouldn't need to be on an app. Why do women need to go on Facebook and say, are we dating the same guy? Why do women need to go on the T app and talk about men and see if they have other partners? I'll tell you why. Because women innately understand that the guys that are attractive to a bunch of other girls and have many other women. They know this innately to a degree. They don't like it, but it's the truth. So when you go on these websites, like the T app, which is blowing up, or I remember the other big one was like, are we dating the same guy that was on Facebook or whatever, right? What you basically see is women admitting that they're hypergamous and they're all dealing with the same dudes. Because contrary to what mainstream society tells you, women are not special. And not only are they not special, they're all looking for the same traits pretty much. Now, society will tell you guys that women are less surface level than men. They're deeper, they're not as shallow, etc. I would argue it's actually the opposite. I would argue women are far more shallow than men are. Significantly more shallow. And the reason why they're shallow is because they carry the next lineage of human being. They have to be shallow to a degree. Now, let me be clear about this. When we talk about what men are interested in versus what women are interested in, when they make the argument to say men are more shallow than women, what they really mean is men are single to dual issue type daters. What does that mean? It means most guys have 1 to 3 things that they really care about when it comes to girls. Sometimes even less. Is she hot? After that, everything falls on its own, right? Women aren't like that. They're not like that. They want good looks. They want income. They want height. They want charisma. They want charm. They want status. So what women are able to do is they cosplay and say, no, I'm not shallow. I want her to be a good person all around. Look at all these different traits that I look for. But what they don't tell you is they will quickly disqualify you for not having some of these traits. So I would argue women are actually even more shallow than men are. Men are simpler. And even if you're not the hottest girl and you're average looking, you can still get yourself a top tier guy. Men, on the other hand, you ain't getting no fat unless you make some goddamn money or you got some game or you got some charisma or you got some status. It ain't happening. And I would argue as a man, you have to have more boxes checked than women have to have checked. The hotter the girl, the higher the standards, the more she expects, the more boxes you have to check off. Versus for men, you take a top tier guy, makes $1 million a year, $100,000 a year, whatever, 6 figures to 7-figure earner. Most guys are going to be happy with her being attractive enough and not a. Let's be honest here. Most guys will be completely happy with her being attractive enough and not a. But women aren't like that at all. They need more. So what the T app has confirmed for us is that hypergamy is very real. And not only is it real, society enables it. And this is the dirty part here. Society absolutely enables unrestricted, untethered hypergamy. You don't believe me? Look at the family court system. We incentivize women to divorce their husbands. We incentivize women to leave men if they don't treat them good enough. If they don't if they don't like treat her like a princess, if she's not being treated right. So in other words, the burden of performance is always on the man to make the woman happy. If she's not happy, she reserves the right to leave at any time she wants. No one will shame her for it. All she needs to do is say some bullshit, oh, I was in an abusive relationship. And then I ask, well, how is it an abusive relationship? He was just manipulative. Describe to me, how was he manipulative? He lied. How'd he lie? So whenever you ask women to actually describe the abuse, they don't really describe abuse. They describe markers of just a regular fucking relationship. Disagreements, arguments over certain things, different worldviews, right? Women will frame things, though, as abuse to justify them leaving or cheating on you. And the reason why they do this is because they know that we live in a society where we believe all women no matter what. This is why women can say stupid shit like verbal abuse or verbal violence. What? It's gotten to a point now where if you criticize a woman or your girlfriend, hey, I need you to do this, or you need to stop being this, or you need whatever, that could be considered verbal abuse, chat. So in other words, criticizing your partner, who's a girl, can be looked at as abuse and justify them leaving you and destroying you financially. I went into a whole rant yesterday about Matt Walsh and how he's keenly unaware of this shit because he's been married for like 15 or 20 years, so he has no clue what's going on. He doesn't understand that the world has changed significantly when it comes to the practice of dealing with modern women. He still thinks it's 1955. Completely delusional. And a lot of these tradcons are delusional. And this is one of the biggest blind spots that guys in the conservative media have, is females. Whether it's Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Crowder, Bongino, anyone from Blaze, PragerU, Breitbart, whatever the f you want to call it, all of them are completely unaware of female nature and don't prepare young men for the female nature. They'll sit there until you get married and all this other bullshit, not aware that this is probably one of the worst environments to take women seriously ever in human history. And apps like this T app, confirm what I've been telling you guys about forever. There's no restrictions on female hypergamy whatsoever. We never hold women accountable for their poor mating selections. Ever. We simply don't. And I know what some of you guys are going to say in here. Well, Myron, you shit on girls all the time right here on YouTube. You make fun of thoughts. There's a couple of red pill podcasts out there that shit on women for being. What are you talking about? Well, let me tell you something. For every one Myron Gaines that says that these are useless, there's 20 to 100 other podcasters that simp on these and tell them that they need to be pedestalized and they're princesses. I am a rare breed, my friend. There's not many of us. And not only are there not many of us, they suppress us and they ban us. They banned my friend Andrew Tate. They demonetized me and shadow banned me. Hell, them boys right now are working to ban me as we speak. Telling the truth when it comes to biological realities about women is frowned upon, in general. It just became socially acceptable to talk about this stuff maybe a year or two ago as the red pill became more mainstream. But guess what happened? The United States government, alongside Media Matters, wrote an entire piece going after people that have red pill ideologies. And you guys know me. I don't just talk shit on the internet. Let me go ahead and show you guys what I mean. Look at this. Congress.gov, chat. Who wrote this article? Medium wrote this hit piece on misogynistic influencers. And what happened? This released on March 16, 2023. 5 months later, we're demonetized on YouTube, right? So not only is this information frowned upon, if it gets to a certain level of prominence, they will do everything in their power to censor it, stop it, demonetize it, suppress it, shadow ban it, whatever the fuck it is. But on the other hand, so they'll ban creators like me that tell you guys about these, but then they'll allow apps like this where women totally violate men's privacy to talk shit on them and expose them. I guarantee you guys, if I made an app called A Cold Beer, where we sat there and gossiped on all day, it would be gone within 72 hours. Every feminist group in America would rally and take to the streets and get this app taken down. And this is one thing I'll actually give the left credit for. Liberals and progressives are far more likely to fucking put on their combat boots and go outside with a stupid-ass picket sign and complain. Way more. Conservatives don't protest. Rarely. You need some crazy shit like January 6th for them to get them niggas out the house. But Democrats, liberals, progressives, yeah, they protest. Not only do they protest, they are willing to destroy cities and light it on fire to protest. Okay? So again, we live in a deregulated sexual marketplace that has the image that it's a patriarchy, but in reality, it is a patriarchy with a gynocentric social order. What do I mean by this? I mean that the patriarchy is responsible for the monopoly of force, military, police, government. The people that instruct that monopoly of force have a gynocentric ideology where women come first. Do you understand, chat? So when these stupid-ass feminists try to come in and say, oh, well, we live in a man's world. We live in a patriarchy. No, you dumb. Though we live in a society that is a patriarchy and men run everything from an infrastructure and government standpoint, the ideology that influences their political thought and legislation and how they do things is gynocentric centered. You don't believe me? The President of the United States right now, Donald Trump, went viral for saying, grab her by the, while he was campaigning. All the left-wing groups said, oh, this guy's a pervert. He has all these women coming out saying that he had sex with them. He raped Jean E. Carroll, whatever the fuck her name is, the crazy, right? So what did Donald Trump have to do? Donald Trump had to walk back some of the comments he makes about women, and he ended up putting Pam Bondi, aka Pam Blondie, who's a Christy Noem, Or for DHS Secretary, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, gave him some of the most important positions in the U.S. government. Then he gave Tulsi Gabbard, who is a career-long Democrat, Director of National Intelligence, DNI. So some of the most powerful people in his cabinet are women. Why did he do that? Because women run the narrative. Men hold the guns. Again, women run the narrative. Men carry the guns. So in other words, the ideology that we actually enforce, it's a female-centric ideology. The men are just the idiots that go to fight for it because women can't fight their own battles. So though on paper, we have a patriarchy, the way we legislate our laws, the way we have social norms, the way that we hire, the way that we run our society is all strictly to benefit women far more than it benefits men. I don't want to hear anything about a glass ceiling or any of that bullshit. Women are able to get positions of power and get jobs despite the fact that they're not competent or not qualified. If you're a female and you're an engineer and you suck and you don't know what you're doing, you will probably get a job over a more competent male counterpart because the firm or the company or whoever the f you want to work for is more interested in what? Racial and gender diversity than fielding the best workforce. This applies to the private sector, this applies to government, this applies everywhere. So though men carry the monopoly of force, don't let that fool you. Men carry the monopoly of force to enact the gynocentric social order. And this is the ugly part that they don't want you guys to know. This is what gets me called a misogynist. This is what gets me called a bigot, blah, 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 all this dumbass shit. But this is what it really is. And once you unplug from the blue pill and you realize this shit, and you see how women are able to get away with, quite literally sometimes, by the way, how there's women sexing young boys all the time, nothing happens. How women will stab their boyfriend and come, nothing happens. Or they're not held to the same level. Then you'll realize that, oh shit, we do live in a gynocentric social order. Women really do run shit. They do. And they use useful idiots to conduct the enforcement of it on the male side. It is what it is. So I know I went on a whole rant there, but this is why the T app is able to exist. In short, we live in a gynocentric social order with no checks and balances on female hypergamy, and women are able to behave and act however they want with little to no scrutiny. Meanwhile, if men employed the same tactics, they would have to deal with some serious consequences. That is the world we live in now, chat. Give me what's the chat if that all makes sense.